Wang is here. Within 3 years, anyone who wishes to enter the realm must step over my corpse. A surge of boldness radiated from Wong Lin at this moment. With a single finger pointed, a massive 7-colored spear materialized out of thin air outside the formation, emitting a deafening whistle that shook the heavens. Amidst this roar, the 7-colored spear shot toward the distant whirlpool formed by the 10 million gods, heading straight for the ancient light emanating from it. As soon as the spear emerged, the starry sky trembled. The vibrant colors wrapped around it, dazzling and heart-stopping. An overwhelming aura erupted from the spear, signaling that this weapon was no ordinary technique of this cave mansion's world. It belonged to the divine arts of the immortal aura continent, a technique of the 7 paths sex 7-colored immortal venerable. This divine technique was a closely guarded secret of the 7-colored immortal venerable. Few could learn it, and only that madman, by virtue of his status in the immortal aura continent, managed to obtain it, almost through forceful means. In the moment the 7-colored spear appeared, the sovereign of the ancient star froze, his eyes filled with complex hatred. His divine sense reached out and saw the spear from afar. He had witnessed this technique in the hands of his master, and had even seen its power firsthand during the cave mansion battle years ago. Master, I have followed you since my youth. All these years, you never imparted this level of divine technique to me, yet you gave it to a mere cave dweller. You are cruel, unpredictable, and temperamental. In all the endless years, I have devoted myself to you, but you are miserly to the core. The sovereign muttered, clenching his fists tightly. Outside the revolving formation, the 7-colored spear glimmered, transforming into a rainbow as it streaked toward the whirlpool formed by the 10 million gods. In an instant, it closed in and collided with the ancient light pouring out from the whirlpool. The impact created a tremendous roar that rippled across the starry sky like ocean waves, sweeping the surroundings and unleashing a terrifying force that quickly expanded. In the midst of this thunderous clash, the starry sky seemed to shake violently. The magnitude of the strike was enough to rattle the very foundation of this cave mansion's realm. Amidst the booming sounds, the ancient light from deep within the whirlpool seemed to be torn apart and immediately collapsed. Along with it, the 7-colored spear also shattered, its light briefly flaring up before it vanished in the next instant. At the same time, the burning realm ancient umbrella slowly began to rotate. The devastating flames it conjured erupted fiercely, spreading rapidly in all directions as the umbrella moved. Eventually, surrounded by these flames, the enormous umbrella surged toward the whirlpool, now devoid of the ancient light. At the whirlpool's core, though the ancient light had collapsed, an existence akin to a black hole remained. Faintly, new light seemed to emanate from it, attempting to spread outward. The 7-colored spear had only momentarily halted this light, but could not dispel it completely. After all, Wong Lin was but a single person, and he was not the 7-colored immortal venerable. But he could block the light with the spear and shield the sky with the umbrella. Now, as the burning realm ancient umbrella spun and roared toward the whirlpool, it closed in within moments. The enormous umbrella directly covered the black hole at the whirlpool's end. As the umbrella enveloped the black hole, a deafening roar echoed, and the umbrella shot upward, diving straight into the whirlpool, sealing the black hole at its core completely. At the moment the black hole was sealed, a sea of flames roared, scorching the whirlpool formed by the 10 million gods. The roaring sounds continued to reverberate, and with the collapse of the whirlpool, the 10 million gods' divine energy was ejected, scattering and unraveling. Some were even burned to ashes by the flames, vanishing entirely. After the whirlpool collapsed, the surviving divine souls returned to their respective physical bodies, including the 5 powerful beings, whose souls also merged with their bodies. Just as their souls entered their bodies, the 5 of them simultaneously spat out blood. Not only they, but tens of thousands of cultivators also opened their eyes, their faces pale as blood poured from their mouths. Wong Lin stood within the revolving formation, continuously using the 7-colored spear and the burning realm ancient umbrella. Despite his cultivation reaching the mid-ethereal stage, it still took a considerable toll. Though it seemed like everything was fine on the surface, Internally, his blood and chi were churning, and his divine soul throbbed with sharp pain. Again, Wong Lin flicked his sleeve and coldly called out toward the cultivators of the ancient star. The 5 powerful beings, their faces weary and eyes dimmed, knew they could not retreat. They had received the order from the Council of Elders, and retreating would mean the annihilation of their entire clan, young and old. They had no choice but to fight. At this moment, the 5 of them simultaneously roared, and the leading white-haired elder with its roar, dozens of fierce war chariots, wrapped in strange beast hides, rumbled forward under the push of many cultivators. As the beast hides were lifted, an ancient and withered aura immediately spread from the chariots. These war chariots were identical to the flame catapult war chariot from the ceiling formation of the 6th spirit from back in the day. Though these chariots lacked flames, their ferocious aura was just as potent. These war chariots were the treasures of the Council of Elders. Each one required countless materials to forge, and most importantly, each chariot was suppressed by the soul of an ancient fierce beast. These fierce beasts, although born within the cave mansion realm, were originally brought to this world by the Rainbow Dao Sovereign from the immortal firmament continent. Afterward, they multiplied. Though they were not native to the immortal firmament, they carried the aura of that continent. These fierce beasts were regarded as immortal beasts in the immortal firmament, with different ranks based on their power. Their souls even contained some memories of their ancestors. Among the beasts surrounding the chariots, there were enormous dragons, strange and terrifying creatures, and even one beast resembling Ji Qiong, whom Wong Lin had encountered before. The roars were deafening. Under the fierce roars of the ancient fierce beast souls, many cultivators, with a determined death wish, sat cross-legged in the chariot's stone-throwing arms. These cultivators emitted an aura of death, their eyes crazed. As they sat, with a thunderous crash, their bodies were violently thrown out, turning into death meteors that shot straight toward the revolving wheel formation. Embracing death, as they were thrown, their bodies exploded, sacrificing both their physical and spiritual existence to unleash their final, most powerful force, crashing into the formation. If the revolving wheel formation was compared to a water surface, these frenzied cultivators were like pebbles, creating ripples as they hit the surface. Inside the formation, Wong Lin watched as more and more cultivators were thrown out with each rumbling of the chariots. All of them sacrificed their lives to crash into the formation. Yet, despite their cultivation levels, their attacks only slightly distorted the formation. They couldn't destroy it. Wong Lin's expression gradually turned solemn, his eyes glowing with an odd light. Something's wrong. As the roaring echoed in his ears, the outer realm cultivators turned into death meteors, their bodies exploding. Yet, a deathly aura lingered on the formation. This aura, infused with the chariot's soul power as it was shot out, gradually began to form an eerie rune on the formation as more cultivators died. At that moment, a sudden roar echoed from one of the war chariots outside the formation. The cultivator who was supposed to be thrown out barely had time to leave before a deafening roar came from the mouth of an ancient dragon, coiled around the chariot. The dragon, which had its eyes closed before, suddenly opened them, revealing fierce light. It swallowed the cultivator whole, and with a mighty shake, it charged out of the chariot and straight for the formation. It was as if the rune forming on the formation had a deadly pull on the dragon. It charged with reckless abandon. In the instant the dragon leaped out, another war chariot unleashed a strange, spherical beast that opened its eyes, filled with malice, and charged forward. At the same time, the other beasts on the chariots seemed to awaken, roaring as they rushed out, including several Ji Qiong-like beasts with multiple heads. With a loud crash, the ancient dragon slammed into the formation, causing it to groan and twist violently. The countless outer realm souls trapped under the wheel screamed in agony, some of them shattering instantly. Next, another spherical ancient beast arrived, its massive body like a giant ball, crashing behind the dragon into the formation. Booming sounds echoed across the battlefield as the formation twisted and rippled violently. Then, as the souls of over 10 ancient beasts arrived simultaneously, a deafening roar filled the air. The revolving wheel formation began to tremble. Inside the formation, Wong Lin sensed the vibrations, his eyes flashing coldly as he observed the vicious beasts. Ancient fierce beasts, I have them too. And not just souls, but actual ancient colossal beasts with bodies that still live. Wong Lin raised his right hand and pointed fiercely at his brow. As his finger touched his brow, a vortex appeared, releasing the size of the Netherworld beast is beyond description. At this moment, merely manifesting a phantom of itself seemed enough to almost fully occupy the array in this area. The enormous phantom exuded an overwhelming pressure that affected the hearts and minds of all who gazed upon it. As this phantom appeared, it was rapidly solidifying. The more than 10 ancient ferocious beasts outside the array, previously charging furiously, all paused in unison and turned their gaze toward the Netherworld beast. A tremor, originating from the depths of their souls' memories, spread through the spirits of these beasts, causing them to shake involuntarily. As they growled and roared, they all retreated together. It was as if the tremor from their deepest memories rendered them unable to resist, filling them with immense fear and terror. Gradually, as the form of the Netherworld beast fully materialized, the ancient beasts, roaring in unison, all retreated. The Netherworld beast had fully emerged. This beast, with its gigantic body, had extended half of itself outside the array. Due to its enormous size, the portion of its body that extended beyond the array was directly in front of a cultivator from the outer realm. The distance between them was less than a yard. The cultivator, a middle-aged man, had already sustained damage to his essence spirit. At this moment, he stood frozen, staring dumbfounded at the enormous beast before him. His mind was paralyzed, unable to think. The Netherworld beast was equally dazed, its eyes filled with confusion as it seemed to ponder where it was. It stared blankly ahead at the countless outer realm cultivators, then at the more than 10 ancient ferocious beasts retreating before it, their appearance menacing and terrifying. Its timid nature immediately surged, and its body instinctively shuddered. With that shudder, the starry sky trembled, and numerous ripples spread out like waves, sweeping in all directions. But soon, it saw the cultivator less than a yard away from itself. Upon seeing him, the beast froze in place. The middle-aged cultivator, pale as death, stared back at the Netherworld beast for a moment in stunned silence. Then, with a scream of sheer horror, he frantically backed away, flailing his arms as if forgetting his divine abilities and hand seals, acting purely out of instinct. He was so terrified that he had forgotten everything. His scream, however, had the opposite effect on the timid Netherworld beast. The beast, now seized with fear, shuddered once more. The confusion in its eyes was replaced by terror as it let out a panicked growl. It was not accustomed to being so close to humans, and the fear generated by such proximity made it feel as though it might faint. The beast's roar, heard by the retreating cultivator, nearly shattered his mind. He spewed a mouthful of blood, and without hesitation, activated the blood escape technique, transforming into a streak of blood light and fleeing swiftly. This blood light, along with the roars of the ancient beasts as they retreated, further spurred the fear of the already timid Netherworld beast, pushing its terror to a new height. In its memories, it couldn't recall whether it had ever seen these ferocious beasts before, but at this moment, their terrifying appearance had thoroughly frightened it. The close encounter with the cultivator had been a shock to its system, and it now felt that these beasts were far too menacing, too brutal, and too terrifying. In the midst of this overwhelming fear, the Netherworld beast's eyes contracted in terror, and its body began to tremble violently as it attempted to retreat. At the same time, it let out another fierce roar, terrified by the sight of the ferocious beasts. The roar echoed around, reverberating like a thunderous wave, replacing all other sounds in the environment. It was powerful enough to shatter the hearts of any cultivator who heard it. The ancient ferocious beasts immediately let out mournful howls and retreated even faster. Their eyes were filled with deep terror, a terror rooted in the memories of their ancestors, preventing them from even considering resistance. But their mournful howls only intensified the Netherworld beast's fear. It wanted to flee, to retreat, overwhelmed with terror. The appearance of the Netherworld beast shocked not only the more than 10 ancient ferocious beasts, but also the tens of thousands of cultivators in the vicinity. For the first time, these cultivators saw such a colossal beast. Their spirits trembled, and especially the beast's terrified roar, which seemed anything but fearful to them, actually instilled even more fear, causing them to retreat in panic. Even the 5 supreme powerhouses paused in shock before hastily retreating with pale faces. Though they didn't know the beast's divine abilities, the sheer size of such a beast naturally emitted an aura of overwhelming pressure. Only Wong Lin understood that the roars signified the Netherworld beast had been utterly frightened. He even noted, with a bitter smile, that the beast's eyes seemed to have turned white. This timid Netherworld beast was, in fact, showing signs of fainting from fear. It wasn't hard to understand why. It was the grotesque and terrifying appearance of those ancient ferocious beasts that had left the beast so frightened. Wong Lin took a step forward, instantly appearing on the body of the Netherworld beast. The beast's body felt different from before. It used to be hard and firm, but now, for some unknown reason, it had become considerably softer. Wong Lin didn't have the time to dwell on this. He raised his right hand and gently tapped the beast's body, sending a calming mental message. At the same time, through their connection, he issued a command to the Netherworld beast. The beast, just recovering under the soothing influence, had the whiteness in its eyes gradually fade, no longer fainting. But as soon as Wong Lin's command struck, a deeper fear surged within it. Its massive head suddenly jerked, as if shaking its head in defiance. The fear in its eyes made it unwilling to devour these ancient ferocious beasts. However, this motion only intensified the terror among the retreating cultivators and the dozen or so ancient ferocious beasts. To them, it appeared as if the massive Netherworld beast was trying to break free. Despite this, the Netherworld beast was connected to Wong Lin's mind, and under his powerful command, it opened its enormous mouth with a growl to bolster its courage, before suddenly swallowing. In that instant, above it appeared a mouth of the Netherworld, from which an incredible sucking force surged. As it drew in, the dozen ancient ferocious beasts screamed in agony, unable to move forward, twisting and struggling as they were all sucked into the Netherworld's mouth. It wasn't just them. Tens of thousands of cultivators were also being pulled in. However, Wong Lin swiftly struck the Netherworld beast with his right hand, halting its attempt to consume these cultivators. Wong Lin understood this beast well. If it absorbed these tens of thousands of cultivators, it would fall into a deep slumber to digest them for many years. Such a result was something Wong Lin wanted to avoid, which was also why he hadn't summoned the Netherworld beast during the previous Luotian battlefield. By devouring the souls of the ancient ferocious beasts, the Netherworld beast wouldn't fall asleep. An awakeful Netherworld beast was far more useful to Wong Lin. As tens of thousands of Outer Realm cultivators trembled in fear, the Netherworld beast's massive mouth slowly closed. But it quickly opened again. Shaking in fear, it let out a tremulous belch, revealing a look of grievance and fear in its eyes. It was still terrified of the ancient beasts it had swallowed. It didn't like eating these ancient ferocious beasts. They tasted bad and were far too terrifying. Amid the stunned gazes of the Outer Realm cultivators, Wong Lin transmitted a mental command for the Netherworld beast to shrink into a mustard seed and return to his body. Without hesitation, the beast instantly dissolved into nothingness, merging quickly into Wong Lin's brow. This time, the beast had been so scared that its body almost went limp. It needed rest to calm its still racing heart. At the same time, the 10 million divine summons, along with the ancient light and the ancient edict, and the dozen or so supreme war chariots preserved by the Council of Elders, were all destroyed by the 3 grand revolving wheel formations. But the Outer Realm cultivators and the last item, the massive stone tablet connected to iron chains, remained. The iron chains, shaking at the ends, were tied to 9 enormous coffins. While the Outer Realm cultivators were still in shock over the Netherworld beast, the massive stone tablet suddenly flashed with 9 runes, which rapidly blinked and transformed into 9 distinct auras. These auras traveled along the chains, heading straight for the 9 coffins. As the auras entered the coffins, loud explosions rang out as the lids of the coffins shattered violently. From the ruins of the coffins, strands of black hair, like weeds, began to grow out, spreading like a strange force through the starry sky. The ancient imperial deity who has guarded our outer realm stars for countless years, your body was split into 9 parts. Today, the 9 bodies merge as one. I call upon your indestructible soul to break this formation and slay this person. The 5 great powers knelt in unison, biting their tongues and spitting out their essence blood. As the blood left their bodies, it was immediately absorbed by the 9 coffins covered in hair. The essence blood from the tens of thousands of cultivators still remaining in the starry sky was also absorbed by these coffins. As the coffins absorbed the blood, rumbling sounds echoed across the sky. The 9 coffins suddenly burst open. Auras of the ancient god, ancient demon, and ancient devil intertwined, forming a force of Tao ancient power that surged from the 9 exploding coffins. This aura belonged to Tao ancient, to Yemo. Wong Lin's eyes filled with deep solemnity as he stood in the formation, staring intently at the 9 coffins. He had not expected such pure Tao ancient aura to emerge from the outer realm. It's not the left eye. If it were truly the left eye, the aura would be far stronger than this. But if it's not the left eye, then what is this? A red-furred arm grew from the creature, which no longer resembled a human hand, but looked more like the fierce 5 fingers, with sharp nails, erupted with an earth-shattering ferocity the moment they appeared. This fiery aura also emanated from the essence of Dao Gu. It was a left arm. The sound of explosions echoed in succession, and from another exploded coffin emerged a right arm, equally eerie and terrifying. Its red fur swayed, and veins beneath the skin bulged, slowly writhing in an unsettling manner. Following that, 2 legs emitting Dao Gu's aura slowly revealed themselves as the coffin continued to shatter. From a distance, this scene was incredibly striking. Wong Lin's gaze grew even more intense with a deeper focus. With a loud crash, the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th coffins exploded in sequence. The dismembered, limbless torso, divided into 4 parts, suddenly appeared amidst the spread of Dao Gu's aura. As these parts strangely fused together, a massive body floated in the starry sky. At the same time, the arms and legs howled toward the torso, immediately connecting to it, forming a complete, headless body. This bizarre being, standing nearly 1,000 feet tall, resembled a giant. Despite having no head, the ferocious aura rose violently, engulfed by the thick Dao Gu Yema essence. The 9th coffin exploded with a deafening roar. Among the scattered debris, a head suddenly emerged. As it appeared, the endless black hair that had spread earlier around the surroundings moved in unison, swirling toward the back of the head, forming a fan-like shape of long hair. The head belonged to a middle-aged man, his eyes closed, his appearance plain, but an indescribable sense of authority radiated from him, instilling a sense of fear at the mere sight. What made Wong Lin's pupils shrink further was the center of the man's forehead, where 2 star marks appeared. These 2 marks were ancient god stars. Though there were only 2, they were entirely different from the ancient god stars Wong Lin had seen before. From a distance, these marks resembled 2 drops of blood imprints. At that moment, as the head shifted, it immediately connected with the body. Upon their union, a complete form was revealed. At the same time, the man's eyes suddenly opened. With his eyes' movements, 2 strange rays of light flickered, shaking the starry sky as if it were about to collapse. Terrifying pressure erupted from his body, causing tremors. Within his left eye, 3 demon stars flickered, and within his right eye, 3 magic stars shone brightly. Who is he? Wong Lin stared at the middle-aged man. In his Dao Gu memories, he had no connection to this man. He could also confirm that this person was definitely not from Dao Gu's left eye. While his aura was powerful, it was clearly not on the same level as Dao Gu's left eye. However, the essence of Dao Gu radiating from this man was pure, the true aura of Dao Gu. Though Wong Lin too carried Dao Gu's essence, it was inherited and fused with his own being. Although it was Dao Gu, it was not the essence of Yemo. But the aura emanating from this man clearly belonged to Yemo. The Supreme Sovereign, who had been observing the battlefield from afar within the ancient star, now revealed a cold light in his eyes. The person sealed within these 9 coffins was one of the treasures of his Council of Elders. This artifact was something he had repeatedly sought and gathered over countless years, along with the 7 colors Taoist. It was ultimately formed through this collection, and for this, many massacres had been sparked. He had only taken it out now, to force out Wong Lin's 2 Bao powers. He could not afford to use it unless absolutely necessary. This artifact was crucial to his future. Although it is still imperfect, still lacking a single drop, they are all inheritors of Dao Gu. The infighting may trigger a heavenly anomaly, perhaps creating cracks in this formation. The Supreme Sovereign's gaze flickered. Meanwhile, as the middle-aged man's body began to fuse with the 9 parts in an instant, deep within the Luotian star domain, there was a vast, boundless region. No cultivation stars existed here, and there was not even a trace of life. Yet in this star domain, countless particles of dust, invisible to the naked eye, drifted. Among them, one speck of dust concealed a hidden world. This world was an icebound realm, existing within a single grain of dust, endless in size. Everything in this world was frozen by ice, even the clouds and the earth emanating cold air. This place was once the location of Donglin's star. It was home to the only ancient cultivation family within the Luotian star domain. Here, there was a female ancient god. Though the war between the inner and outer realms had affected the 4 great star domains, the fire of battle had never reached this place. As a cultivation family passed down since ancient times, they had ways of avoiding destruction over countless epochs, and naturally, they had means to remain untouched by the ongoing conflict. At this very moment, on top of a mountain peak that seemed to be a ritual altar in this frozen world, a beautiful woman sat cross-legged on the altar, the cold wind how at the center of her brow, 7 ancient god star marks slowly revolved. Her closed eyes suddenly snapped open, and she gazed distantly into the void. I can sense the bloodline aura of my ancestors, she murmured. Raising her right hand, she pressed it to her brow. Instantly, the 7 star marks at her brow began to spin faster, merging together into a single blurring mass. Within this blur, the 7 star points strangely fused, and in a flash, they formed a drop of blood-like mark. This blood mark on her brow emitted a strange, crimson glow. Outside the revolving wheel formation, the middle-aged man, who had been split into 9 parts and then reformed, let out a low roar as he opened his eyes. His gaze, intense, was locked on Wong Lin, who stood solemnly within the formation. At that moment, the man raised his right hand and pointed toward Wong Lin within the formation. As he did so, the man formed a peculiar hand seal. This seal bore no attack power. It seemed more like a symbolic gesture. Once formed, he drew his hand back and pressed it to his chest. Within his eyes, an overwhelming battle intent surged. Ancient clan battle seal. Wong Lin's eyes burned with the same battle fervor upon seeing the seal. In Wong Lin's Dao Gu inheritance memories, he recognized this mark. It was an insignia of supreme status in the ancient kingdoms, or among the 3 ancient clans where Dao Gu resided. This mark, known as the battle seal, was a mandatory ritual during conflicts between the ancient clans. Once this mark was used, the person it was aimed at was compelled to accept the battle. It was a life-and-death duel. If one perished, their everything would belong to the victor, with their ancestor as the judge of the afterlife. To refuse the battle after seeing the seal would strip a cultivator of their worth, for in the ancient clans, the weak had no place to survive. The middle-aged man focused on Wong Lin, waiting for his decision. Wong Lin stood in silence for a moment. Then, with a fierce battle spirit bursting from his eyes, he raised his right hand and pointed at the middle-aged man outside the formation. He, too, formed the ancient clan battle seal and pressed it to his chest. At that very moment, the middle-aged man let out a primal roar, his 1,000-foot frame stepping forward with a thundering crash, charging toward the formation like a giant. Wong Lin's body trembled as his blood and energy surged. With a step forward, his body began to expand wildly, 10 feet, 100 feet, several hundred feet, until he became a giant of 1,000 feet tall. With this step, Wong Lin broke free from the revolving wheel formation, standing beneath the stars of the ancient star of antiquity. As the middle-aged man's roar echoed toward him, Wong Lin also bellowed, "Battle! If you seek battle, then battle it shall be." Wong Lin would never yield. His life had been one of constant battle and slaughter. Facing the challenge from the middle-aged man of the ancient clan, there was no reason to refuse, nor would he. He would defeat his opponent, claiming everything they had. The Daogu aura from the man, coupled with the ancient god star's 8-star resonance, drew Wong Lin in with an irresistible pull. As Wong Lin stepped out of the formation, the middle-aged man surged toward him, raising his right hand to clinch into a fist, hurling it at Wong Lin with a deafening roar. In ancient clan battles, the physical body was paramount, with divine abilities as support. Ultimately, it was the terrifying strength of the body that mattered. Once an ancient clan cultivator's body reached a certain level, they became immortal. When heaven and earth decayed, their bodies would not perish. The man's fist closed in, mere distance away from Wong Lin, less than 100 feet. For both Wong Lin and the middle-aged man, 100 feet was negligible. Wong Lin's battle spirit flared, his right fist meeting the incoming blow with a thunderous strike. No words were needed, no communication required. The battle seal was clear, battle was inevitable. The fists collided with a resounding explosion, sending shockwaves that reverberated throughout the realms, shaking the very fabric of reality. A fierce wind erupted from the collision, whipping Wong Lin's white hair and the middle-aged man's black hair into a chaotic dance. Through the whirlwind, the blazing battle spirit in their eyes shone like the sun. Inside the formation, Shi Zifeng's face was pale as she watched, silent and still. She refused to distract Wong Lin, lowering her head to continue warming the wine for him. She believed in him. She knew he would not lose. Wong Lin's body trembled, his blood boiling. A mouthful of blood surged from within him, spilling from the corner with each step back. There was a thunderous sound, as if stepping on the pulse of the starry sky itself, making it tremble. The middle-aged man's right arm erupted with deafening bangs, and invisible ripples spread from his arm. Blood oozed from the corner of his mouth as his body staggered back several steps. To injure Wong Lin with such a direct strike, among cultivators, this could only be done by someone whose cultivation was far superior to Wong Lin's, using divine abilities to clash. Only such a shock would be capable of achieving this. But within the ancient clan, the terrifying physical power could create such an impact with similar strength in their mutual strikes. This is the difference between the ancient and the immortal. As he retreated, Wong Lin slammed his right foot down, halting his forward motion. His eyes burned with even greater battle intent. With a low growl, he charged once more. The middle-aged man also stopped his retreat. In the instant Wong Lin charged, he roared and surged forward. The sounds of booming clashes echoed throughout the starry sky. In this fleeting moment, the two collided 9 times with their fists. With each collision, massive ripples swept outward in all directions. After the 9 strikes, the ripples that spread were like surging tidal waves, sweeping through the starry sky. The tens of thousands of cultivators from outside the realm were forced to retreat, only stopping after backing up 100,000 zhang. They stared in shock, using their divine sense to observe the two giants engaged in a frenzied battle. The wheel formation also twisted under the force of the ripples, enduring the impacts passed along by each shockwave. After the 9 strikes, Wong Lin spat out a mouthful of blood. His body seemed to be struck by the combined force of 9 cultivation stars, sending him stumbling backward. He was about to crash into the wheel formation, but his body suddenly came to a halt. He looked up, his expression twisted with fury, his eyes filled with unyielding battle intent, which only grew fiercer. The middle-aged man also spat blood, his body retreating greatly, stopping tens of thousands of zhang away. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, he roared and stepped forward again, charging once more. Between the two, the starry sky was filled with blood they had spilled. One drop, carried by the force of the impact, fell onto Wong Lin's face. This blood wasn't his, but the other's. Wiping the blood from his face, Wong Lin licked his fingers, a strange gleam flashing in his battle-hardened eyes. With a deep growl, he stepped forward. This time, he thrust both hands forward, locking them together as one. With a low roar, he leaped into the air, his body soaring 10,000 zhang as the starry sky trembled beneath his feet. In this way, Wong Lin and the middle-aged man were positioned one above the other. Above him, Wong Lin clenched his fists together and swung them down fiercely toward the middle-aged man below. The middle-aged man's body halted. He suddenly looked up. As Wong Lin's fists came crashing down, he formed a hand seal with his right hand, pointing upward. Behind him, a massive ancient god phantom appeared. The ancient god phantom was immense, wearing full armor, and in the center of its forehead were 8 star marks, flashing brightly. As the middle-aged man pointed, the phantom's right hand also rose, and it aimed a finger straight at Wong Lin, crashing down. The ancient god finger. The enormous illusory finger collided with Wong Lin's swinging fists, and from a distance, the scene was like a painting. If it could be captured on a scroll, it would shake the hearts of all who gazed upon it. The starry sky served as the backdrop for this dramatic scene, with Wong Lin above, his immense body crashing down with earth-shattering force. His fists collided with the two that were locked together, hurtling toward the middle below. The middle-aged man, his black hair flying, looked up with eyes blazing. He raised his finger, and the enormous ancient god phantom, its size too vast to be contained, extended a finger, which was 100 zhang long, rushing straight toward Wong Lin. With a mighty roar, Wong Lin's fists collided with the illusory ancient god's finger. The sound of the impact seemed to threaten to shatter the very sky, echoing across the heavens. Blood sprayed from Wong Lin's mouth as his hair whipped violently, but his body did not retreat. Instead, with a deafening roar, he charged downward, his fists slamming toward the middle-aged man. The illusory ancient god's finger shattered. Wong Lin's fists pierced through it as if cleaving it in two, shattering the phantom's right arm and splitting its massive body apart. As the ancient god phantom disintegrated, Wong Lin, with an unstoppable momentum and a fierce murderous aura, charged straight at the middle-aged man. Everything happened in an instant, and within the blink of an eye, Wong Lin was within mere dozens of zhang from the middle-aged man. For cultivators of the ancient clan, this distance was no more than 7 feet for mortals. In the blink of an eye, Wong Lin's fists collided violently with the middle-aged man's. The sound of cracking was almost drowned out by the deafening roar, as the middle-aged man's finger exploded, flesh and bone turning to mush, blood splattering everywhere. His body spewed blood as he rapidly retreated. One of his fingers was no match for Wong Lin's fists. At this moment, as his finger shattered, Wong Lin's fist slammed into the middle-aged man's chest as he was forced back. With a powerful thud, the middle-aged man's body shook violently. His chest caved in with a loud crash, but being on par with Wong Lin, despite the injury, he immediately lifted his right foot and swept it toward Wong Lin. The strike collided with Wong Lin's fists. A tremendous force surged from his right foot, and just as Wong Lin's full power was unleashed, a crucial moment of release occurred, and the impact landed on Wong Lin's fists. Wong Lin's body trembled, blood spilling from the corner of his mouth as he was thrown backward for several thousand meters. His arms quivered slightly. Even though he hadn't used the ancient god divine art, this was the strongest physical strength he could summon after inheriting the ancient god and Daogu powers. This blow would have crushed even a void nirvana cultivator, and even an ethereal cultivator could not withstand it. Only a cultivator at the mid-void tribulation stage could block it with a mighty divine ability. The ancient clan battle seal, life and death combat. Only in a life and death struggle can the brave win. Wong Lin lacked no courage. His eyes were bloodshot, his expression ferocious, disregarding his injuries as he staggered but quickly charged toward the middle-aged man. Kill! A mighty roar erupted from Wong Lin, his first words in this battle. As his voice thundered, he appeared as a furious god of destruction, causing the middle-aged man, who had been retreating, to change his expression for the first time. Ancient demon devours heaven. The middle-aged man's left eye flashed. 3 demon stars within it transformed into 3 drops of blood, which shot out of his left eye and materialized into a massive ancient demon phantom in front of him. Within the left eye of the demon phantom, 9 demon stars shimmered. The moment the demon appeared, it let out a sharp scream. Its body rapidly expanded as it opened its mouth wide, lunging toward Wong Lin to devour him. Ancient devil devours earth. The middle-aged man's right eye released 3 demon stars, which burst into 3 drops of blood. A pure demonic aura erupted, transforming into a massive ancient devil phantom. The appearance of this ancient devil shook heaven and earth, causing the starry sky to tremble. Ancient God's Fury. 2 ancient god star marks on the middle-aged man's forehead suddenly flickered like drops of blood, releasing an overwhelming ancient god aura. Under the fusion of this energy, an ancient god phantom appeared once again. This time, the phantom was filled with boundless fury as it roared at Wong Lin. Ancestor Dao Gu, condense the ancient shadow. The middle-aged man shouted loudly. Suddenly, a much larger figure appeared behind the 3 ancient clan's phantoms, one that Wong Lin recognized. It was Dao Gu Yema. Compared to this figure, the ancient clan phantoms were insignificant, like children in comparison. With the appearance of Yema's phantom, the middle-aged man swiftly formed a hand seal and pointed fiercely at Wong Lin. I am the son of Dao Gu. You hold my father's legacy, but today I will reclaim it. As he pointed, the 3 ancient clan phantoms charged forward, and Yema's phantom began to march, heading straight for Wong Lin. Yema has no son. Before his death, he spilled 3,000 drops of blood, transforming into the 3 ancient clans. Among these 3,000 drops, perhaps 9 drops were his heart's blood, containing the rich aura of the ancient clan. You must have obtained these 9 drops of heart's blood from the countless ancient clans destroyed by the Outer Realm Palm sovereigns over endless ages. Even so, you have only gathered 8 drops. Wong Lin's eyes sparkled. He had analyzed everything after licking the drop of blood earlier. Now, after fighting to this point, he was sure of his findings. As the ancient clan phantoms and Yema's shadow neared Wong Lin, the 7 star marks on his forehead and the ancient demon and ancient devil star marks in his eyes began to spin rapidly. As they rotated, they fused within him, and his own Dao Gu aura suddenly erupted. At the moment of this explosion, Yema's inheritance emerged behind Wong Lin, forming the Dao Gu head devoid of its left eye. This was a battle to the death between the Dao Gu inheritance and the sun formed from the heart's blood. If Wong Lin won, he could absorb everything the middle-aged man had, including the 8 drops of Dao Gu essence blood. These 8 drops could potentially allow Wong Lin's ancient god star marks to condense a new one. It would also increase his ancient demon and ancient devil star marks. All of this would be his opportunity and fortune to revisit the ancient burial ground and obtain a complete inheritance.